AskReddit. People who have dialed numbers written on bathroom stalls, what's your story? There was a guy in my group of friends that annoyed the hell out of me. I made a free yard work by the mentally challenged sign and hung them up in Costco bathrooms numerous times for about 5 summers in a row. He would always complain of these stupid people calling him thinking he was someone who liked to do yard work for free. Never did tell him it was me. Got a dial tone. Turned out to be Domino's. Decided, why not? I ordered pizza and went home from the bus station. Never dialed one myself, but I answered a call one day from an unrecognized number. He was in a bathroom stall at Arby's that read for a long philosophical conversation followed closely by rough sex call. And my phone number. Now I didn't write it, but I guess word gets around. I found a business card in a phone booth printed cryptically with, "If you don't call, you'll never know," and a phone number. Since I had time left on the phone card I called, and now I know. It was a pseudo-religious self-help cult trying to recruit people to seminars at their ranch in like New Mexico somewhere with promises of finding a new spiritual family. No thanks. The last thing I need is more family. I dialed a number from my college bathroom stalls that said free blowjob. I thought it was going to be the police department or something asinine, but I wanted to do it anyway because you never know, and it was a number for vector marketing. I saw a number scratched on a table at a bar that said something like "Call Mike, he's been really mean." So I sent Mike a text telling him to be nicer, and in response he sent me back several angry "Who the hell is this?" texts over the next few days. He's really mean. I was at a restaurant and they had the give $1 to charity and put your name on this piece of paper we post on our wall. While waiting in the lobby for a friend, I saw one that had a name and a phone number with "Call me" under it. I figured what the hell, why not? Girl answers and I ask if it's XXXXXX. She says yes. I explain I'm in the lobby of the restaurant and her name is on the wall with her phone number. She doesn't believe me despite my best efforts to convince her I don't know who she is. Eventually she asks me to walk out of the front door of the restaurant, which I obliged, and she says holy shit. Meanwhile I'm standing in a parking lot looking around trying to figure out who the hell is looking at me. She asked me to take the paper down and thank me. Apparently one of her coworkers told her that he did it, and she didn't believe him. They worked in the area and frequented the restaurant. In high school I messaged one that was on the back seat of a bus that was going through a town that was a 30-minute drive from my town. I texted, "Who is this? Your number is on the back seat of this bus." They reply, "Greg." I told my classmate about it a week later, since his name was also Greg. Sure enough, he holds out his phone with a text message from me in there. About 10 years ago somebody wrote "Call 30th XXXX for a good time" on the sidewalk. So I saved the number for shits thinking I would call the number and at least let them know how I got it, but I never did. Just kept the number saved as. Well, the other day I was on Snapchat and saw pop up and suggested friends or whatever, so I added her. She added me back. She's a babe and I have no idea what to say to her, but I wanna tell her how I got her number and not seem weird. Found a number on the bathroom stall in a bar. When you need a friend, when something great happens and you have no one to tell, when you want to vent, when you want to be spontaneous, when you need help getting home from a drunken stupor, call 30 RIP Ryan. I cried and called to tell her what a great message it was, and we both cried and talked for a few hours. I knew a guy that called a number written on a $5 bill. He figured she must be a quality girl because it was a 5 and not a single. She had a great voice on the phone, so they made a date. He played guitar in a popular local band, and there was a hip restaurant next to the club they were playing, so they arranged to meet before the gig. He figured they'd have dinner, and then he'd impress the shit out of her with his playing. He was a truly fine guitarist. So he walked into the restaurant and looked for a girl in a pink dress. There was one, and she was enormous. So he slipped out before she saw him. So during the show, he sees the crowd part as the girl in the pink dress makes her way to the front, where she glares at him during the entire set. Afterwards, she screamed at him for standing her up. He felt a little guilty, but he said he'd felt worse if he'd had dinner with her and then dropped her. After all this, his warning was to not call numbers you see on currency. Not in a bathroom stall, but someone had once written one of my male friend's number on a classroom bench. A girl called him, they talked, and began dating. Eventually, a guy who had a crush on her beat my friend up, and that is how my friend lost his first girlfriend. When my friend and I were about 11, there was a public bathroom in the park where we had soccer practice, and outside that public bathroom was a payphone, and on that payphone was scrawled a number, and above it the word sex. I don't recall ever paying for a call, so maybe it was a 1 to 800 number. I don't remember. It was a recording of a woman's voice. I remember only the beginning, but I can hear it crystal clear. You wanna have fun? Yep. And then a bunch of feminine giggling. We would hang up when the recording asked for a credit card number to continue the call. I think we were terrified our parents' credit cards would somehow get charged, and we would get caught. Kid logic. We were / are both straight females, but we still called that thing all the time. It was seriously the most risque thing I had ever done up to that point, and also probably for a long time afterwards, sadly. I was at the bus stop and saw this text: if you are in deep shit, call this number. I called the number cause I had like 30 minutes to bus. It was local small taxi company. I told him to come and pick me up. He saved me like 25 minutes of waiting. The guy was cool, and I even gave him solid tip. I was playing Jenga at a local bar with some friends. All the blocks had people's numbers on it, so we made a rule that you had to TXT any number you pulled out. The first person I TXT'd sent me a picture of a pile of coffee beans labeled find the can I. There was a tiny can I face on a bean in the bottom left corner. Never, but I was in this English pub in Tokyo and the walls were pretty typical of an English pub. West Ham forever, Sarah is a slut and so on. Then one said, is anyone interested in joining our baseball team? Every Sunday at 11 AM with his phone number. He must have thought it was an actual message board. Bless. An old sounding woman answered, offered the best BJ in town. Asked her how much, told me $5. I asked her if it was blueberry or blackberry jam. She called me a dumbus. Boss in berry jam dumbus. Those other ones are out of season. I got me a BJ. I used to call the numbers and inform the recipient of where there were not such nice things written with their name and number. They'd always ask what it said. I'd always reply that I wasn't sure they wanted to know, but they would insist. I would tell them verbatim in my radio announcer voice and listen to the shock emanate from the cell phone. They'd always ask me to mark it out, but I would tell them that I didn't have a pen or Sharpie. Found my sister's number once and couldn't stop laughing. There was a flyer posted on a bulletin board at this coffee shop asking for your best wiki impersonation. The flyer told you to call and leave a message if they didn't pick up, and the best one would win $25. I figured it was too good to be true, so I called the guy and let him know what it said and where it was. He was wondering why he had gotten so many weird voicemails, but appreciated the heads up. Best experience, became regular fuck buddies with the guy. He was a bike enthusiast, and we went biking several weekends. Worst experience, went to meet the guy. After talking and deciding whose penis would go into whose orifice was the guy had lied about his stats. I'm talking real chubby, beer belly out to 10 months pregnancy level. Well, I'm here anyway all revved up, secretly grit my teeth, and say let's do it. He wants it without condom. He claims to be virgin and needs his cherry popped. Seriously, dude, your number is on the freaking wall of mall bathroom, and you want me to believe you are virgin? He got offended at my nasty insinuations, told me to go fuck yourself, and loose my number. I ain't gonna want to see your insert racial slur for brown people here face ever, and I should go back to my own country where I belong and do unspeakable things to goats. When I told him we have no goats in Toronto, the weather is much too cold for them, he got even more mad. Fun times. Dialed up a number, scratched on a horse feed shed storage door, out in Loudoun County, Virginia, and Robert Devil answered. He cautioned me to not use it again, lest I could deliver him to 55 lbg of horse and mule feed. It was written on a piece of paper way back around 10 years ago. It said call this number if you are struggling with life. I was 13. So I called the number. We never met, but he had a really sweet voice and we talked for about an hour. gave me great advice about how the world can be cruel to gays like me, but that the first future will get better. We never communicated after that. If I could meet that guy, to thank him even for just a secretary, I would. Thanks Mr. Target. That's what he wanted to be called. I saw the number Red Hunger Games hotline, so I took a picture of it in case I ever wanted to call it. A year later I'm on a school field trip coming back from DC, when I tell my friend we should call this one number. He says yes, we dial it, and we hear robots having SE. When I was younger, someone wrote for a good time call, and my number on the playground slide. People would call a couple times a week, laugh and then hang up. It started to get annoying, so I went to the playground to cover it up. Someone saw me doing it and called the cops saying I was vandalizing the playground. I had to explain to the cop that I was just removing my number so people would stop calling me. Okay, so it isn't a bathroom stall, but a hilarious story. Back a long time ago, Paris Hilton had her mobile sidekick hacked and all her contacts numbers leaked online. I was contracting some 15 to 16 year old kid to do a website for me at the time. About 4 to 5 hours before the list went public, this guy building my site hits me up on AIM. Yeah, that old, and is like, my buddy just did some crazy hack. He got all these celebs numbers. Bullshit, I said, because at the time this was unheard of. He sent me a text file of about 150 names. The first one that stuck out to me, that I knew who they were, was Fred Durst. Rang him up, froze, and then said, yes, is this Mr. Durst? Yeah, who is this? I truthfully explained the exact scenario and my morbid skepticism led me to dial him up. He said something about him going to have to turn his phone off now and actually thanked me for giving him a heads up. After that I waited a few hours and picked a number at random. Someone I didn't recognize or know. Wrong idea. She picked up the phone and said my number was now logged into her phone and the FBI were on the case. Whatever. And she hoped I died. At that moment I knew the list went public. I logged into some mic chats, and it was story after story of interactions. I don't like his music, but Fred Durst seemed like a cool cat and I like to think I gave him a heads up before shit hit the fan.